for attending our October Lunch and Learn on influencer marketing, how to grow your brand engagement and revenue, basically through influencer marketing. I'm Kent Lewis, president and founder of Anvil, and my trusty cohort, Joanna, is on the account team at Anvil. You can check out our website, anvilmedia.com. You've probably already been there, or follow us on the social channels at Anvil Media. We have a bunch of archived webinars. After you've registered for this or registered to see archived webinars, you can see all of our archived webinars with just one login. So we appreciate your time. This will be recorded, put up on YouTube, and archived on our website as well. So a little about me. I have 25 years of digital marketing experience. The last 21 of those, I've been running Anvil. Been around a long time. When I'm not helping run sales and marketing for the organization, I speak and write regularly about the marketing industry. And on the influencer marketing side, I've been named a top influencer by BuzzSumo and a couple other folks. Joanna, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Sure. So my name is I'm the account coordinator and social media specialist here at Anvil. I've been here for about 11 months, coming up on a year soon. And I also oversee influencer marketing for a few of our clients here. And I'm originally from Boston, so that is a little bit about me.
Thank you. All right. So today we're going to talk about a little background on influencer marketing, some best practices and some trends, a wrap up with some resources. If we have time, we'll roll some Q&A as well. Joanna, take it away.
Sure. Okay, awesome. So to give a little bit of background into the world of influencer marketing, I wanted to start with a definition. So influencer marketing entails leveraging the reach of an already established social media user who has built a large and loyal following in order to support your brand through driving brand awareness and increasing sales. So a reason why influencers are so effective is because they are able to establish a personal and authentic relationship with their followers on behalf of your brand. So because influencers' followers see them as so honest and authentic, they start to see them as close friends and are therefore able to consider their recommendations and opinions as very trustworthy. So in fact, 71% of influencers believe that it's this honest and authentic voice that keeps their audience so engaged in their content. Also, the influencer marketing industry is worth nearly $14 billion in 2021 and is expected to be worth closer to $15 billion in 2022, so it's growing rapidly. I also wanted to note that Gen Z is the generation that is most impacted by influencer marketing, with the demographic most likely to be following influencers, women aged 16 to 24. And some more stats on influencer marketing. 97% of marketers consider Instagram to be the most important platform for influencer marketing, but TikTok is slowly but steadily catching up with them. So TikTok has the highest influencer engagement rate, even higher than that of Instagram. So TikTok is really coming for Instagram's first place spot when it comes to platforms for influencer marketing. I also wanted to note that Gen Z is not the only generation that is very influenced by influencers. In fact, 60% of millennials consider themselves to be more likely to take advice from YouTube influencers than traditional celebrity endorsements. So celebrity endorsements don't hold as much weight these days as endorsements from influencers. I also wanted to note that 80% of consumers have purchased something via an influencer recommendation. So that's 4 out of 5 people. And influencer marketing has really permeated so many industries and is definitely something that should not be ignored in 2021. So why is influencer marketing important? So not only does influencer marketing boost your social media strategy, but 89% of those surveyed have reported that their ROI from influencer marketing was similar to or better than other networks. So why is influencer marketing so effective? Well, first off, it can increase your website traffic. Influencers are able to increase traffic to your website and help you obtain leads that you didn't even have to pay for. Influencer marketing can also increase your social media accounts and increase other engagements or other metrics, including engagement and impressions. So influencer marketing can really boost your social strategy and can create content opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't be able to create yourself. Influencer marketing can also help to extend brand awareness to audiences that you otherwise would not be able to reach without the help of an influencer. And influencers can also help you find new customers. So these customers have the potential to become repeat loyal customers to your brand. So one reason why influencer marketing is so effective is because influencers are able to instill a level of consumer trust that other networks simply can't compete with. In fact, 92% of consumers trust an influencer more than they trust an advertisement, more than they trust celebrity endorsements, and even more than they trust their own friends and family, which is so surprising. In fact, 33% of people surveyed said that influencers are trusted sources, while only 17% reported that their own friends and family are trusted for shopping recommendations. So why do followers feel so connected to these influencers, and why are they so persuasive? Well, first off, influencers are able to provide insight into their personal lives and directly interact with their followers, creating a level of connection and a level of honest authenticity that creates consumer trust. So influencers respond to their followers' messages and comments, and they give their seemingly unbiased opinions on products, which really strengthens this relationship and generates a strong level of trust between the consumer and the influencer that celebrity endorsements simply can't compete with. Oh no, that's it. So what are the benefits of influencer marketing? So when you partner with an influencer who is the perfect fit for your brand, someone who shares your brand values, and someone who is an appropriate partner, there truly are so many benefits. So first off, you are able to connect with your audience where they spend the most of their time. So whether that's TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, influencers really help you to get into that space where your audience is spending the most of their time. Influencers also help you to improve brand awareness and extend your brand awareness to new audiences that you otherwise would not get a chance to get in front of if it weren't for the help of the influencer. And like I touched upon before, influencers really help to build a strong level of trust relatively quickly. So because their followers associate their favorite influencers as trustworthy and authentic, now that you've partnered with that influencer, your brand is now associated with that level of trust and honesty. Influencers also help to enrich and boost your content strategy as well as your social media strategy in general. So working with an influencer can help increase your follower numbers and increase engagement metrics such as likes or comments on your social pages, which is a great benefit and kind of like an extra benefit of working with influencers. And influencer marketing also has SEO benefits as well, as working with an influencer can help to boost organic search rankings. And lastly, influencer marketing has real-world consequences as well. Influencer marketing can help drive traffic to your website and can ultimately drive purchase decisions and increase sales. So what budget should you put aside for influencer marketing? The two most common influencer budgets are really low on the spectrum of about $1,000 to $10,000 per year, and then very high on the spectrum of about $100,000 to $500,000 per year, with 19% of marketers spending on that lower side of the spectrum, and then 18% spending on the higher end of the spectrum. But these numbers are expected to grow rapidly in coming years, as you can see on that chart to the right. So by 2023, brands are expected to spend $4.6 billion on influencer marketing, which will be a 25% increase from 2021. So why are marketers expected to spend this much on influencer marketing, that is because 90% of marketers consider influencer marketing to be an effective use of their budget. So while 90% of marketers consider influencer marketing to be effective, there are still some major challenges to be aware of and to consider before diving into your influencer marketing strategy. So I think one important warning or one important challenge to consider before diving into your strategy is the importance of finding an influencer who is a perfect fit for your brand. So if you find an influencer who may not be the perfect fit or who may be an inappropriate partner for your brand, there are negative consequences to that. You may get associated with some negative connotations due to that influencer, and you may end up damaging your brand reputation. So it is important to find an influencer who aligns with your brand values. Another major challenge is spotting fake followers. 50% of marketers consider that to be a huge challenge with influencer marketing. So one way that you would go about finding fake followers is looking at the engagement rate of an influencer. So for example, if an influencer has about 500,000 followers, but a very low engagement rate of about 1 or 2%, that would be a huge red flag that this influencer may have some fake followers and may not be a great potential partner for your brand. Some other things to be aware of are the always changing social algorithm and always changing social media trends. Because these things are always changing, it can be hard to keep up in order to stay relevant. So that's definitely something that you want to consider, whether you have the capacity to keep up with these always changing trends. And then another thing I wanted to touch upon are strategy challenges. So many marketers consider building an always-on strategy and creating a strong creative strategy to be challenges with influencer marketing, as well as dedicating enough time to managing influencer campaigns. So those are definitely some things to be aware of when starting your influencer marketing journey. And then lastly, I wanted to touch upon the fact that 76% of Instagram creators were found to be hiding the hashtag ad disclosure from users, which is a deceptive practice. That would be definitely a red flag if you saw that a potential influencer was doing that, because your followers may consider your brand or may associate your brand with deceptive practices if they found out that the influencer you partnered with was hiding the hashtag ad disclosure. An important distinction to make when diving into the world of influencer marketing is the distinction between micro-influencers and macro-influencers. So as the name implies, micro-influencers have a smaller following of less than 10,000 followers, but they do also charge a smaller rate per post. So that could look like about $400 for a Twitter post, up to about $2,500 for a YouTube video. And while they do have a smaller audience, they are typically subject matter experts in their niche. So whether their niche is beauty or fashion or gaming or finance, they typically do have a high percentage of followers who are very interested in that subject matter. So by partnering with a micro influencer with a specific niche, you would be likely to be in front of followers who are also interested in that industry. Micro influencers are highly persuasive. In fact, 82% of survey respondents consider themselves highly likely to follow a micro influencer's recommendations. So they definitely have an element of persuasion that micro influencers do not have. And again, they have higher engagement rates as well. So while their follower numbers may not be as high as macro influencers, their engagement rates are much higher, anywhere from 3% to 20%, which is huge. On the other hand, macro influencers have up to 1 million followers, and they charge much more money per post, anywhere from $30,000 for a Twitter post up to about $200,000 for a YouTube video. So because they do have that larger audience, they are going to charge more money. And while they do have a larger audience, they typically are not subject matter experts in a particular niche. They're often seen promoting products that tend to be kind of irrelevant or very scattered. So for example, they could be promoting clothing one day and promoting a credit card the next day. They don't have one particular niche or one particular industry that they tend to promote. And in contrast to micro-influencers, they are definitely not as persuasive. So while 82% of people would be likely to follow a recommendation from a micro-influencer, only about 3% of consumers consider themselves likely to buy a product endorsed by a macro-influencer. So that's definitely a huge difference and definitely something to consider if you are deciding between partnering with a micro or a macro-influencer. And then lastly, their most important and their highlight of working with a macro influencer is their huge community. So they do have a huge community that you would be able to extend brand awareness to and a huge audience that you would be able to get in front of, but they just might not be as persuasive to their audience as a micro influencer. So I think that this chart does a good job of summing up the difference between a micro-influencer and a macro-influencer. So micro-influencers can be considered more of your everyday social media users and your subject matter experts, while macro-influencers would be more like your celebrities and social media stars. So your micro-influencers are typically considered authentic and genuine. They're considered unbiased, and their reviews are considered honest. And most importantly, people consider their recommendations to be more persuasive. And on the other hand, macro influencers just don't share that level of authenticity, and they're not considered unbiased, and they're less likely to persuade anyone to buy a product based on their recommendation. So what type of content should your influencer that you partner with be sharing? So the most valuable type of content is reviews. So people turn to influencers for their unbiased opinions and their recommendations. So it's no surprise that reviews is the #1 most valuable piece of content. And that's followed by how-tos. So that could be anything from how-to videos to how-to blog posts. So those are another type of content that people consider valuable coming from influencers. And then some that are considered a little bit less valuable would be insight into their everyday lives. So that could look like their everyday routine or the products that they use every day. That's definitely a type of content to consider, but it's maybe not the most valuable. And that's followed by commentary on current events and motivational posts. So when developing your influencer marketing plan, what should your strategy look like? So the first step of establishing your strategy is to map your objectives and to be as specific about your goals as possible. So you want to think about what your goals are, whether that means increasing brand awareness, increasing engagement on social media, increasing website traffic, or driving conversions on your site. You want to think about what your goals are and map your objectives before doing anything else. After that, you're going to want to take a look at your audience and decide which social media platform is most important to your audience. So that could be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, or LinkedIn, or anything else. So you want to decide what is most important to your audience, and then after that, you're going to want to find an influencer who has a strong platform on that social media site. So the way that you will be able to identify influencers for these platforms is a variety of tools that do just that. So to name a few, there's BuzzStream, PeopleMap, Upfluence. There's so many different tools, and while they're all a little bit different, the goal of all of them is the same, which is to help you identify influencers that would work the best with your brand for each social media platform. And while you are deciding on the best influencer for you, there are some questions that you can ask yourself in order to best evaluate potential influencers. So a question you can ask yourself is, who are these influencers following? These are going to be the true influencers. So for example, if you are researching a macro influencer who has about 500,000 followers, and you find out that they are following a smaller influencer with about 8,000 followers, and engaging with them and interacting with their content, and they are truly interested in what this micro influencer has to say, that would be a great indicator that this micro influencer is the true influencer and would be a great partner for your brand. That leads me to,
Oops, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Also looking for early stage influencers who have the potential to grow. So rather than looking at follower numbers, you're going to want to look at engagement rate. So micro influencers with a smaller follower ratio, but a higher engagement rate are going to have a high potential to grow into larger influencers, and it would be a great opportunity to partner with them early on while they're still cheaper to work with. And then lastly, you can consider your existing customers and fans as micro influencers. So that would be a great place to start, is by looking at who your current fans are, your current customers, and the current people who engage with you on social media, and checking out if they have a following themselves. So for example, if you find that one of your current loyal customers has about 10,000 followers, that would be the perfect micro influencer to start with, since they already are familiar with your brand and they already like your brand.
So I'm going to take over from here. Thank you, Joanna. Great job. And we can, again, we'll circle back at the end here, make sure we've covered everything. But I'm going to talk about some of the best practices. So we've built a foundational strategy, and Joanna has told us what influencer marketing is, why it matters, and how to go about it. And so I just want to touch on a few key steps. Some of these were alluded to in the previous slide image of like 10 steps to a plan. But the biggest challenge I've seen with clients looking for help with influencer marketing is they're not 100% sure what their goal is. And often, you know, whether it's awareness or content distribution or validation or reaching new markets or just pushing sales versus engagement rate, making sure that you have a primary goal and then secondary goals all prioritized, because some goals are have a completely different strategy. So goals for increasing engagement could be controversial content. That may not be what your brand is about. Or when it comes to selling through product, they may not be sexy posts, but they're very effective posts, right? And so is it consistent with your brand? And do you have alignment with those influencers with that brand alignment? That's a common challenge that we've found. So you obviously want, when you're reaching out to influencers, you need to personalize that outreach. They appreciate that personal touch. A lot of them may be considered a bit of, egomaniacs, perhaps. It's just perhaps part of a unduly earned reputation, but everybody appreciates that extra thought. And you obviously want to start with experts in your space, hiring those that are known in the space as experts, subject matter experts, thought leaders, etc. But in the end, there really needs to be that alignment. So do you have shared culture, shared values, your brand and that influencer? Because those authentic relationships are far more effective and last a lot longer. And then also you want to make sure that those influencers are on the proper platforms that your constituents utilize. So is your business facing consumer facing? That would be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and maybe Twitter. If they're B2B, business to business, that would probably be more LinkedIn, a little Twitter, a little YouTube. Pinterest also is one to consider as well. But most influencers are Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. And more so, you're seeing more and more B2B coming out. So those thought leaders in specific business verticals are important. Also agree on your goals with and measurements with the influencers. So is it, certain engagement stats, their follower base, when you're looking at evaluating them, you also want to hold them accountable once you've identified them and developed a formalized contract with them. They don't like to be micromanaged. I don't know any influencers that like to be micromanaged. So be aware and try and have more of a peer-to-peer role is typically more effective. And make sure they identify their post as sponsored with hashtag ad. The research came out, most influencers are hiding that. Back to Joanna's point about the credibility of macro influencers is far more suspect than micro influencers, so keep that in mind. And then just continue to keep an eye on the analytics to monitor the efficacy of the campaigns. So these are just a few things to keep in mind. And which platform? So we talk about that. Make sure that you're looking at the same platforms that your constituents, your end user, your customer prospects are using. And right now, you can see the percentages are primarily Instagram. TikTok came out of nowhere, surpassing Facebook. YouTube has actually been higher in the past. It's coming back a bit. There's a bit of a resurgence, as it were, from 10, 15 years ago. Pinterest is a much slower growing platform by comparison. It's very niche. Twitter, could argue it's lost its luster, but it continues on. And then blogs. There's always room for blogs. Blog influencers, and those you can syndicate their content across multiple platforms. But you can see platforms used for influencer marketing, the eMarketer chart on the right. Instagram's seen a little bit of a decline. Stories are flat. TikTok's been the largest growth. Facebook's down, etc. And if you look farther back, then YouTube was higher many years ago. And then Pinterest has seen a little bit of growth. So it's helpful to see these trends and keep an eye on it. One that you're going to see is high growth as well as Twitch and other gaming platforms. Twitch is the largest. That's the one to keep an eye on, as well as Snapchat. Not my favorite platform, but you go where users are. So if they're skewed younger, Gen Z in particular, Snapchat is where you need to be. But just be wary of hiring anybody underage, right? That can definitely be a challenge, if not potentially illegal. So again, a note for TikTok being on grow, Facebook on the shrink. The best industries, now for the most part, it's been pretty obvious. Fashion. If you follow Kim Kardashian or even Kanye West, it's all about fashion. The other big industry would be food. So the prepping of food, recipes, raw ingredients, the whole cooking process, prep, etc. Some people just eat stuff and are influencers, kind of like some of the dive bars and dives and drive-ins, dives, and whatever. Anyway, on the Food Network. Entertainment, babies, so parents, young parents are way into social and look to influencers, parents that have been there, humor, etc. Others are much smaller. So, and then across types, luxury is leading the charge as a subset inside and outside of fashion. And within fashion, there's activewear, luxury, beauty, etc. So a couple different ways to slice the data, and that's a little bit older data. Things have moved a bit, but it's still holds pretty true. Driving sales. So let's look at that. So this is where we typically start with clients. We're a measurable marketing agency. So regardless of the channel, we're always looking at moving the needle. Not everybody does that. Some are just about the content and the reach and the credibility or the engagement. And we like to see sales move when possible. So right now, brands are pushing those influencers that are primarily about follower counts and engagements and impressions, move them down the sales funnel into conversions. And that's really true with the holiday season coming up, or is right on us right now. Also, having an affiliate program or social commerce program really helps with attracting and securing and retaining influencers so that they get rewarded for the product sales, not just reach related numbers. So this year has been a focus on the measurability and the ROI, and that will only continue. That's probably a new baseline this year that will continue forward 2022 and beyond. Also look for more co-branded collaborations, co-branded merchandise between unique one-offs. So you have famous like Billie Eilish has a fairly ghastly Nike shoe she collabed. Others are doing that similar across different product lines and brands, but it's all about authenticity. So it's a delicate balance of being true to yourself and also looking at revenue goals. So you can see the, the Ocean Spray, the Fleetwood Mac, and the skateboarder drinking and lip syncing along to Rumors, I believe. This, that was transformational, and you had Nick Fleetwood and others, jumping on that bandwagon. But you can see the spike in traffic or of brand recognition was huge during that a couple week period. And I think Ocean Spray did a phenomenal job of leveraging that, and got him a truck, got him a mobile home, like totally hooked this guy up. Lifetime supply of Ocean Spray, smart move. Another big trend is live shopping. So this is where people are literally shopping, live streaming while they're shopping, looking at different products, and it's so it's that magic combination of live streaming on social media while shopping. It was 13% of e-commerce sales in China in 2020, so that was last year. It's going to continue to grow to about $11 billion industry by the end of this year. Influencers are basically the foundational element of live shopping, and look for more of it to be happening. And what the shift is to that subject matter expert element of the knowledge and expertise is more important, so that you're better off with a micro influencer than a macro influencer when it comes to live shopping, because of the authenticity element, and their knowledge base is much deeper. So Nix is an example of doing it this year, and you can see other folks doing it. Just Google live shopping, and you can see more examples. Another trend for big this year is moving from B2C, business to consumer, to B2B, business to business, and utilizing business-based influencers. So I mentioned I was named a Buzz Super influencer because I'm really active on, I'm guessing, they don't tell you, but I'm really active on LinkedIn and Twitter. And those are primary channels for influencers in the business space, in my case, digital marketing. And so right now, we know that 90+% of businesses feel influencer marketing is effective, but that is also true in B2B. It's just a newer concept to engage subject matter experts. And typically it starts with company leadership, right? So starting at the top, like Will It Blend, the Blend Tech campaign from 20 years ago or whenever it was, that was authentic because the CEO really was trying to grind random things up in a blender. I'm not sure if he was concerned about cancer-causing particulate when you blend an iPhone, but that's what he was doing. And the marketing guy saw that and took advantage. So it starts with leadership, and then also mapping to your key objectives. If you're trying to get into an industry where you don't have that leadership, influencer marketers in the B2B space can be hugely powerful. And you can map the audience needs to your own internal resources and fill in any gaps with outside talent. I highly recommend training and guiding the thought leadership efforts. My background in PR has been very helpful in this regard for Anvil and for our team. Joanna's here speaking today on this, and she writes articles regularly. That wasn't her expertise coming in, and she's becoming an expert in her own right in that regard, for example. Just encouraging your team to create and syndicate content and then measure it, especially the senior level executives in your company, is powerful. But if you need to look outside to other experts in the space to get, you might get much greater engagement and follower base. And, that's the best way to round it out there. So mostly the thought leadership world, or the B2B marketing nurturing, is webinars, thought leadership articles, email newsletters, etc. So where do you plug in your influencers in those channels is an important factor. So these are a few resources. We will, as a registered attendee, we'll send you a link when this is ready. We'll send you a link to download a copy. And all of these are resources from the deck and some of our other additional resources you can find on our website. We hope that these will be of help. And keep in mind that we will post a version of this recording on YouTube and then have it archived on our website as well. And some of you may already be aware of our really deep insight section because you found this webinar. We also have white papers and cheat sheets and articles and blog posts. We've been blogging nonstop since 2004. So you can also, if you like more passive reminders, we can nudge you once a month with our newsletter, tell you what's going on in the industry. And if you're ever interested, we can conduct a free audit for you of your online presence. So That concludes today's Lunch and Learn webinar on influencer marketing. Joanna, did you have anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
I don't think I have any closing thoughts other than that was fun to go through, and I'm looking forward to the next webinar. And thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch you next month. We will be putting a teaser up within the next week or so for our next webinar. And thank you, April and others, for attending, and we'll see you next month. Take care.